Welcome everyone to today's live stream, this week's IT news and bits tonight. In case we are hopefully live as usual, while we wait for people to tune in, also with this amazing YouTube notification stuff. A quick look what we have done this week, which was again quite a bit. Starting with also keyboard adapter stuff for amazing scene buttons here. Amazing stuff, right? What else? Let's see. 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. Where did we even start? So restreamed the rendition verite MIPS like disassembly stuff, because the previous week live stream was too borked. Random $5 Euro Matrox PCIe card Ultra Spark giveaway that we finally sent away, and Rumbleed, they had their hardware security vulnerabilities. LVM2 RAID also sucks, unfortunately, much more than I would wish it would. Then the 8-bit AVR keyboard adapter dongle stuff that we also previous months we have done Apple ADB, Apple Desktop Bus, but now we have here some serial for amazing stuff. Also membrane keynote also less loud, in case you like this or not. And Mesa 3D, we updated this to this amazing Meson stuff, all the keeping open source packages, updated infrastructure stuff, and also OBS hotkeys did not just work with this amazing exceptional keys there, so a little bit of OBS patches and motivating people to code every day and send it upstream, and fun stuff with this, having fun or something like that with Git. Also recurring educational content here, and is the live even connected? I hope so. And then more tips, and that's this for the summaries, and we can also start with the first people in the audience. Welcome everyone. Exclusive AMD is going monster. Apparently, according to leaks, allegedly 64-core Threadripper might or might not be on the way, landing in at the end of 2019 Q4 something. 7 nanometer, of course, with this, what do they call it, threadlets, or CPU-lets. We will see in a second, and this will be interesting to see how this turns up here in regards to Threadripper versus AM4 TR, what was it, TR4 or something, and the EPYC socket there, especially as how much the entry level chips go already to up to 32 threads, 16 cores or something like that. So the line is blurry, getting more blurry every day. What will probably have an expected price range of $2,500 to $3,000, but actually more AMD news. Then actually I wanted not close it anyway. Whatever. In more news, AMD Zen 2 microarchitecture analysis, Ryzen 3000, EPYC, and Rome. And Rome, of course, being the EPYC server platform. So there is, not to be confused, right, I have to reiterate this, Zen 2 means Ryzen 3000, as you see here. Just a recurring reminder, naming a little bit near. And of course, starting with an affordable 6-core for only 199, 65 watt. And this is probably here. So this is a 2700 that we are rocking here on this live stream. And that is still a similar price range, 65 watt. But then, of course, now going up to 16 cores, 32 threads, which is, of course, crazy and amazing. So just for the high-performance Linux compilation stuff, I'm really looking forward to this SKU here, although we do not really have 105 watt here in this thermal envelope of this very compact mini ITX stuff, but we somehow need to squeeze it in there. So Zen 2, because what was the previous generation Ryzen 2000 was Zen 1 Plus, just a little bit improved stuff, and they also manufacture those with this new core complexes here that those chiplets there are 7 nanometer, and apparently the I/O core memory controller stuff and stuff like this is still, what was it, 11 nanometer or something. We could quickly, here's 12, yeah, so maybe 12, the IDE, the I/O die for the ROM processor with 40 nanometers. However, the consumer processor I/O dies are built using 12 nanometers. That is interesting. Also, in another live stream with the Lenovo ThinkPads the other day, someone mentioned they think the mobile SKUs are not 7, was it 7? Well, this is fake process nodes here anyway, because all of those use manufacturer marketing numbers now anyway, so all of those are a little bit, the process nodes a little bit near plus minus, give or take a nanometer or two, because they all measure different from gate structures to different structural sizes. So I'm not really sure. I would expect that the mobile ones are also 7 nanometer, or is it 7? Not that I need to memorize here. What do we have here? Anyway, was it 7? Yeah, 7 nanometer. And I don't really see, the mobile ones are usually more energy efficient and something, so not really sure how the other comment got to that. I'm pretty sure I would expect anyway that the mobile ones are, if anything, smaller, more energy efficient. If you have a supercar, can you not be such an asshole? Okay, thank you. What a bloody nonsense. Anyway, so what is here? Improvements. So allegedly they are, these are here, of course, well, the marketing stuff, they live on promise. Yeah, okay, fine. Yada, yada, yada. Names here, not really interested in names. So these are quite some slides. Maybe we could go here, also auto playing video, right? Because at least we, thank you very much for that advertisement. Anyway, they're not. So they have here quite some single threaded performance upgrades for IPC stuff for plus 4% and multi-threading performance with this massive parallel multi-core stuff here of, what is it even? Multi-threaded performance Cinebench. What do they compare this here even to? The Core i. What? Okay, the Core i9. Okay, so, okay, the reference. Okay, so it's slightly misleading, the usual marketing stuff. So this is apparently all baseline Core i7 9700K. Because I was wondering for a moment what is here plus 95 in this regards here. But yeah, anyway, still quite some 10% if you compare here this Intel Core i9 high-end and anything. I can't stress enough that the more competition, the better. By the way, is this just pure IPC? Anyway, we need the silicon, then it's not as much fun as scrolling over others, people, or AMD's advertisements. Maybe we leave it open and take a closer look. Did they hit here floating point? Yes, so they also, actually they work some interesting things, probably mostly a quick analysis here of microarchitecture. So here also auto playing video, can you? And 2 threads per core SMT, larger micro-op cache, now 4K instructions, larger L3 cache, 2 times 10 plus, 4 integer units, larger rename space. By the way, this is also crazy for those in the MIPS rendition Verity. I said 256 registers are really crazy many, and here you see the rename space, which are the internal registers they are using for renaming, because 32-bit x86 has only a handful of registers plus a segmented NIX register, so I don't know, whatever, the 8-ish or something like that you can't freely use. Then AMD 64 has, of course, 16 or so general purpose registers, but of course internally with their internal micro-op stuff, they have their 180 registers, which is many here in this regards, but there you see how crazy this 256 registers, although many constants of this rendition Verity stuff. And yeah, 2 loads, 1 store per cycle, 2 floating point. Yeah, floating point before was slightly weak, so I wish they would more precisely write here the improvements. So we need to find this out ourselves. But they write here of maybe allegedly AMD claims around 15% IPC improvement, which is of course pretty nice. Welcome Dave, by the way. The new 3150 I think is the benchmark, are even closer to being true. It will be some serious kick. Yeah, also we really need this because you see from the last years Intel has not done much innovation, mostly just cashed in overpriced their CPU, certainly because AMD was simply just a little bit slower. Even there again, how much was it really slower? I was pretty happy on the Linux side. The question is also, was AMD slower in benchmarks because of Intel's compiler tricks that games might have been using, just because they were using this Intel compiler. So yeah, fetch, improved branch predictor, larger branch target buffers, I think. So 512 NT, so this is like maybe double, right? L1 branch target buffer or something, 512 entries, up from 256. So yeah, how do you get like 14% IPC? Of course, all these internal buffers for the micro-ops, for the branch predictor, everything already x86 supersized, and then supersize it even more. What do we have here? Yeah, so this also L2, BTB, also nearly double from 4K to 7K. Not really sure how they choose 7K, what that is. Is this to fuse some of those off? Did they run out of die space? I have no idea. Is it just some management bits that they didn't have more of those? I don't know. And yeah, 30%. So with a branch prediction, apparently 30% lower misprediction rate is of course everything helping a little bit. 1% there, 1% there of mispredicted jumps, branches not taken, and optimized. Yeah, so blah blah blah, a lot of here also auto playing ads, annoying. Decode, yeah, really many pages. So decode, there you see, is this even halfway decent on? Yeah, this probably looks relatively okayish. So this here on what we have done, the manual one afternoon disassembler for the rendition verity, similar what your CPU is doing on the first step, decoding the instructions, opcode cache, and apparently double capacity to 4K fused instructions. And yeah, all of those you see, double this buffer, double here. So much logic gates spent here on just some 14 or what this was improvement. And yeah, fun stuff. Floating point, I think before they were sharing quite some floating point. I think it's also, yeah, so they doubled the floating point. That was previously a weak point. They only had 128 bits for the AVX stuff. So now they have, this also means that the 256 bits or something AVX instructions run like twice as long or something, because they were 100, they run 2 times with 128 bit floating point unit, as far as I remember. Improved performance for instruction, which are generated by AVX instructions. And yeah, just as I said before, using 256 YMM registers, just as I just said. And integer, yeah, really many subpages for all the page views here. Integer execution, 92 entry integer scheduler, up from, yeah, and there you see the complexity of CISC, right, of modern instructions. 92 entry integer schedule, I mean before it was already super large, right, 84 integer schedule, 92, well, they didn't double it. Why? Because this stuff, as you see on the diagram, relatively complex stuff, quite some thousands, hundreds, thousands of logic gates, and then you cannot just double everything, then it would also not clock at those frequencies. It die would get out of hand. You know, remember, multiplied by 32 times for all the 32 threads. Yeah, 180 entry physical register file, up from 168. And again, even the internal register file not just doubled, because 168 internal registers, 7 instruction issue per cycle, up from 6. And there you see double this buffer, double, and then instruction per cycle, the average, depending on what kind of instructions, only up from 6 instructions up to 7. So there you see 100,000 of logic gates spent for just one instruction issue more, which of course here in percent are quite a huge number of percent, because only 7 from 6 is actually already quite some percentage up actually. So yeah, but all in all, only 14% higher IPC, and yeah, many details. Then in other news, at CERN, they are moving away from Microsoft. Actually, really strange for me to see. You would think something as scientifically based through also organizations. They're doing a lot of low-level research. They would be one of those who do not need as many Windows instances for all the regular Excel spreadsheet Windows stuff. Especially, I think they have run the scientific Linux that they also, I think, as far as I remember, recently abandoned or deprecated or something. But yeah, they tried to use open source software. By the way, fun fact, I was purely using open source software since 1988 to around 2005 only, when we started our company purely on open source software. I don't really understand how people have so much of a problem with it. And only with the advent of our Mac software in around 2005-06. But even then we didn't use it for primary like accounting or something. So yeah, not really sure. But this is the people are only used for Microsoft software, and then they just are stuck with this and don't have, like, even trapped in the Apple reality distortion field, they can't get out of the Apple ecosystem either. And yeah, so then this was also security. Speaking about Windows, one of those, I think Google Zero, what that name was, security lab there. So they have found a bug in SymCrypt, which is of course a core library for handling crypto on Windows. I think Microsoft even recently open sourced this on GitHub or something. But yeah, so today is day 91. This was already on June 11th. Is it 11th? So 90 days before that. You see the usual, you are security researchers, you report bugs and they are not fixed. So the issue is now public. They consider it relatively low severity and low severity, but I think it was probably denial DOS here, so DOS and denial of service, and they consider it relatively low, but you could take down, it's low, but you can take down an entire Windows fleet relatively easy. So don't really, why is it low if you can relatively easy take down a whole Windows fleet, whatever. And they also, yeah, you can take down a whole Windows fleet, but Microsoft doesn't fix the bug in 90 days. Speaking about security, there is now an apparently slightly easier way to disable your Intel management engine 12 here. Just a handful of bits or so, they write here in the core boot or in ME clean. And yeah, so of course, what is this? This is an Intel management engine that is doing some remote backdoor stuff, always on and management stuff of your Intel board. Also AMD unfortunately has this also secure processor, something, not a huge fan. And also they found multiple bugs. Fun fact, in the new ones they run Minix, that we probably mentioned in another week's news some months ago. And yeah, they write here only bare, so they found a new bare minimum. Proposed implementation would consist of parsing the CSE partition layout table located in the boot partition descriptor table and then finding the type 2 entry. And other than that, would probably benefit from clean away yada such some hub bit and so on. So yeah, more easier, more clean Intel management disablement if you're into such sort of things. Speaking about security things, a recurring theme here, everything is insecure, especially antivirus. Not the biggest fan because usually there are so many bugs in antivirus. Why? Because their code base is just huge. All the scanning, all the compression methods and archive compression containers from zip to LZ, whatever, something, RAR and so on. And all of those are relatively complex, especially like RAR. They have like filters for instruction sets like x86. So all of this is rather complex and often there is a typo, thinko, some off by run, buffer over, underrun and all kind of stuff. So usually antivirus just increases the attack surface, just gives, because it's so integrated into the system, if you find a bug in an antivirus, you can usually exploit even more than without that anyway. So actually it of course it scans something, but it also adds quite a lot of code base to your trusted code base that you usually have bugs in, and then you break out of your antivirus and such. And yeah, from the usual, this antivirus is so full of bugs. We had this constantly antivirus blocking Windows Update, antivirus blocking this, antivirus whatever. security vulnerability in antivirus. And this is here your Firefox passwords disappearing due to AVG security software. So yeah, fun, amazing stuff. You see everything totally bug-free and amazing. In other news, bug-free and amazing, New York Times says US planted cyber kill switch in Russian power grid, which is of course crazy. Media shrugs here, so maybe I should have quoted here the New York Times, but RT, why not? Just some diversity here. So this is of course crazy in this day and age with crazy mentally, apparently maybe a little bit unfit presidents and such. And also, where are we getting back? So the US is complaining Iran is doing something, Russia is doing something. Yeah, what is the US doing? Also for many decades already, the US probably doesn't need to wonder that something gets hacked here and there if the USA for many decades have all over the world done things like this, worse things, different things. And in my opinion, this is here a recurring theme also for the German government asking for more access to digital messaging, WhatsApp and whatnot. No, we need more security, not less security. If there's a backdoor, there will always someone will go in there. Not only the good guys, which usually are not even good, but even worse guys. And yeah, speaking of which, by the way, so this is really not good. Not because I'm a fan of Russia or USA or Germany or Europe or wherever. This is in general not good. However, this is doing this. We really need to be careful with mentally irritated presidents all over the world. Apparently, allegedly, there's not only one of those, but many, unfortunately, and this can unfortunately really get out of hand pretty soon. So I probably better start saving for a nice little bunker here for myself, move my studio and stuff. At least we have some SG Octane and PA-US in case of something, probably the last machines that still are running then. And isn't that Stuxnet started was original for power supply. I forgot the overview but one was also for this nuclear centrifuge something there for enriching Z in, was it Iran maybe? But I lose the overview of, I'm also, can't memory so much bad things from all the secret services all over the world. It's hard to keep track overview. Maybe I need to start a permanent blog post just to have a list of all this strange stuff going on. Speaking of strange stuff, massive power outages in South America. Just today, Sunday, Argentina, Uruguay, mostly out of power. Also part of Brazil, Paraguay are affected. So, does this have any testing their security backdoor hacking? I don't know. Maybe it looks a little bit strange, right? Yeah, usually many countries do not just go out because of, well, infrastructures also apocalypsing, but anyway, yeah, also this stuff is all outdated even in Germany and whatnot, so please don't hack our German power grid because they are not really feeling secure about all the Siemens or other General Electric, Alcatel, whatnot stuff. Maybe my company should get into power grid infrastructure because the few things I've seen did not look good. Also, all the old-fashioned Siemens crap, usually manufactured for decades and then full of security stuff. Speaking about more security, somehow we have a recurrent pattern here, right? Most of the software is insecure. Well, hardware is insecure, memory is insecure, and software. So, yeah, not the best material for good dreams tonight. macOS less than 10.14.3 Keychain exploit. Keychain, of course, being the system integrated password managing stuff there. So CVE 2019-8526 consists of two parts, daemon and a client. And yeah, so you either want to run your latest macOS or you don't want to run macOS. Also, password manager, yeah, if there's a bug, then you get all of them right. Not really. All the people always promoting password manager stuff, they are not really sure if I'm feeling the most secure with password manager of Firefox or Apple or stuff. Here's a paper. I hope I don't forget to put the links in here. So yeah, located in login Keychain DB and usually encrypted and yada yada yada. You can read the details. I try to keep it faster, more brief here. But not only Apple sucks, also apparently to the latest and greatest Apple fanboys that you probably heard about daring fireball there. John Gruber, one of the latest and greatest Apple fans, that he has some not so great, most amazing words about Dropbox. Today they unveil the new Dropbox, and Dropbox you know and love but better, simple workspace to organize your content, connect your tools, bring everyone together. And he writes, all I want, he doesn't want any of this. He wants just Dropbox, a folder that syncs perfectly across devices, allows sharing friends and colleagues, that's it. He doesn't want to have this monstrosity, right? Just like iTunes or many other stuff, monstrosities like Office or Windows or Firefox with Rust and Cargo. All I wanted was a browser, right? And then all I got was some slow stuff with Rust and Cargo and 150 micro dependencies. But yeah, this is at least people in the Apple relative distortion field have similar problems as us. I feel the same in many other ways, not only Firefox, but even monolithic Linux kernel and many other things. And yeah, web in general, all the websites getting slower and slower, frameworks and whatnot, and more features and animations and whatnot, but probably you will correct me if I'm wrong. And at least Apple has split iTunes, not that I would care about this anymore because I'm actually leaving very much here the Apple platform, not really much stuff here left from Apple, actually nearly nothing on, hey, here's nothing on this desk from Apple, yay, progress. Yeah, so not that I would care about that they split iTunes in pieces that people wanted for a decade or two already, but whatever. But yeah, also, this is also, do not mess up your product. If you have a well-working product like Dropbox, do not, maybe, I don't know, maybe he's an outliner, maybe he's the only old man yelling at the cloud, but if more people are thinking like this, then maybe not the best product development. Dangerous, yeah, then I had this already in last week's IT news, but somehow forgot over this with the crappy Wi-Fi. Eric as Raymond chimes in here in dangerous folly of software as a service, something that I also said already multiple times, and I thought it's maybe worth pointing out here, quoting from other famous people like Eric as Raymond. And again, you can read the details, and but what I want to see, maybe that is something similar. What is there? He hates something, hateful, something, blah, blah, blah. What I want to say is in general what I already said multiple times, you lose control of your stuff. Even I experience this myself, not only, you see with Apple, we made this video, you send something to the App Store and it disappears over a year. It's not being fixed, but this is not all, even accounting software and stuff like this. Even like with the accounting software we're using in the cloud, for reasons not to have to run Windows and the ever-changing German government nonsense that I don't want to adopt and be on the safe side with open source stuff. So, but again, you can operate this from, it's not downgrading my argument, you can't run a business with Linux. Maybe they even run their stuff in QEMU there in the cloud. Certainly you would probably not want to run accounting stuff in the cloud on Windows, I hope at least. But still, if you have entirely Linux based companies, then you can certainly access this very nicely with Firefox and Chrome and don't need to worry about some Windows. Actually, did I say accounting? No, that was wrong. I meant only accounting we run in-house. I meant salary stuff, because complicated reporting stuff of the German government, because not, why not overcomplicate this? Only that part. And anyway, we would need to report it to the German government anyway, to the tax API services. So if we report this, it's going into the German government cloud anyway, then it doesn't even really matter if we use a service for that. Anyway, even there I realize I want to access something, they change some buttons, you don't find some data entry points there. It's the same with YouTube, the new Creator Studio, totally slow stuff. But not even this, even this is of course fun stuff, like, well, unless you have a YouTube business, but all of those, also if you use Microsoft Office, if you use Adobe Creative Cloud or Apple Cloud stuff, they also have some iWorks in the cloud, or Google Cloud stuff. if they stop the service at Google, we made the video, 150 services and products stopped by Google, right? You rely on something, you have it in your workflow, you base your company on this, and then Google stops it, right? Or they make it more expensive, double as expensive. Allegedly common stuff at Adobe, that stuff migrating from classic licensing to Creative Cloud stuff might get twice as expensive, or so I heard from people. And again, this can go away any day, right? Also outages, right? Everything in your office works, you want to get work done, and then the cloud stuff is offline. Some power outage there, some misconfiguration in the backup power supply, you name it. And again, you lose complete control. So in my opinion, what does he even write dangerously? So not really sure what I read this already 2 weeks ago. What was it of dangerously? And because the thing is, it's probably, and this might not be what he has written here, but in my opinion, it could be even more dangerous than proprietary software, because at least proprietary software, like let's say Microsoft Office, is a classic license version you can use for 20 years, 30 years, well, if you want to run it on outdated Windows and such. But you could, nobody is taking it from you, like all the old-fashioned libraries still running on DEC terminals or something. But if it's in the cloud, it can go away any day. You cannot just keep it running on your site and stuff like this. Comments on this, they write a thing with most web apps is that people rebuild the whole web app rather than just update. Yeah, and this is what I really hate. I so agree with this time. This is exactly the problem with Google YouTube Studio, and I'm really sorry to make this up, but the point still applies to everything else. It doesn't really need to be this kind of not business unless you're YouTuber stuff, because so again, live on YouTube, right, this is loading very slow, and this is not, before it was the argument, this is a shitty Core i7 from yesteryear Mac Mini. No, this is a 16 thread, 8 core 16 thread, 32 gigs of memory, AMD Ryzen built. I just don't want to move it so much standing here on the display. Anyway, super high end performance, even it's even slightly overclocked, right? Because why not building T2 with something, right? So this loads like a piece of garbage. And yes, I made a video in Chrome. It's loading over 2 times, maybe nearly 3 times faster. Which again, yeah, Firefox performance, yada yada yada. And then the whole bloody interface here is rebuilt, and everything is annoying. And that is, by the way, maybe even the same with AdSense. I'm by the way considering that we stop is it AdSense, AdWords actually, is it? Not really sure if our company will continue giving Google money for AdWords. And they also, instead of what Dave said, incrementally improving the interface, I would say nothing. But the problem is, half of the stuff you don't even find in this interface anymore. Everything here is different. All the statistics are different. Some of the statistics I don't even find anymore. And yeah, so you cannot just even use it the same, because some of the statistics I usually look at, they are simply not here. Yes, some things are better, but for example, here's a new graph for this stuff, how it performs. Some new pretty, oh, that's actually not too bad here, this video. Yeah, so this graph is new, and this graph is actually pretty nice, but all the rest, there are so many things I don't find. Well, it is 3 times slower, right? Some things I don't find. It's getting too used to, and also everything is huge, more space. The old studio is much more compact. For example, this retime, well, basically everything. So this is exactly this point. I really would like that they gradually change. Here's some new diagram. There's some button arrangement that you maybe even gradually can get used to it and know where the stuff is. Now everything is different, and they even threaten me here, like you will be forced soon to use it exclusively. Yeah, thank you very much. Anyway, and it's the same with accounting software, with everything. Speaking about strange management and stuff, Facebook shareholders revolt, external investors, well, powerless, but external. So apparently the voting structure is so strangely structured. So probably the most genius stuff from Zuckerberg, as ungenius all the rest of this is, but somehow really managed to structure his share option voting stuff so that although he cashed in billions through investors, they somehow still have not much voting rights. But they are, so investors are apparently so unhappy and irritated there with Facebook and its performance that 68% of the outside investors want the company to hire an independent chairman The majority was up from 51% last year, so this is 17 percent points up here of people not satisfied with the leadership there. But you really wonder how the voting structure is really. This is the one thing that I'm said this already multiple times. I have really many different ideas here of what to do additionally or next beside our core products and embedded Linux and YouTube. So many great opportunities, but with this investment stuff, not only is it not as common or easy in Europe or Germany, I'm also really wondering, you really need to probably have really good evil guidance from evil people like Trump or something. Well, not that Trump would know something, but at least this kind of evil, dishonest business that you structure your venture capital investment stuff so that even when you cash in hundreds of millions, if not billions, of your seed capital stuff, that you remain in majority control of your company. That is really most genius part in that, I would say. But yeah, really crazy stuff. Speaking about deprecated stuff and such, just when people with the YouTube channel offer us Intenium IA64 access in the next thing to be deprecated in GCC here for the future, has no maintainer, they want to deprecate it, it sounds like they will go ahead. So in that way, actually, hey, our MIPS 64 SGI Octanium, it's of course funny that both SGI as well as Hewlett Packard of the SGI MIPS stuff we have here, as well as the PA-RISC stuff, both transitioned to Intenium with those promises of Intel and their partnerships. And the only thing survived in still being supported in GCC is not Intenium, the huge sunken ship there. But hey, we have MIPS 64 support. And well, of course not SGI Octane, because that is our private funny of maintaining this, but for your router, wireless access point and other network gear, MIPS 64 still rocking, Intenium not. Is it not a funny anecdote of history? Yeah, but it's still there for a second. I'm not the greatest fan of Intenium, but with those people in the audience said I should have fun with their machines. Totally appreciate it. We probably will do some T2 testing on Intenium there, just for the YouTube fun and entertainment and education and such. In other news, I think someone, maybe Dave or someone, asked me some other week to say a word about this. What to do when your certificate authority suddenly revokes your cert. Also recurring news, we had this in other news the other months with the certificates for software signing in the App Store, the app notarization. In my opinion, this is something similar. You need your certificate. And again, it is, in my opinion, also just money making that you need your additional certificate, because it should theoretically be already enough that you load this from exacode.com. If you have an Exacode product, you could theoretically, should be possible to sign it with that and not this additional certificate. Also, as you see, we had so many scandals there where people, I think allegedly certificates leaked, people hacked this, whatever that was, I forgot, probably should Google this. And some certificate authorities have such a bad track record that Google already took some of the root certificates out of their trusted certificate chain. That was Cert hacked. Was this one of DigiNotar maybe? And then there was also this other, what was this? Anyway, leaked something, I don't know what, or it also actually was also double signed or signed wrong I think they signed also wildcards. Some certificate authority also signed wildcards for a domain that didn't belong to those people, maybe even Secret Service and fun stuff like this. And there you see, if the government asks, hey, you have a nice money printing business here, wouldn't it be nice if you have this still running next year? And by the way, we need a wildcard certificate for Microsoft.com or something. So yeah, amazing stuff controlled by such. And this is a problem with this government control of security and backdoors and such, as if they would not use it also for shady things every now and then, right? As you see in the breaking news every other day. Speaking about Mozilla, they have new design, branding without walls or windows. Anyway, so the evolution of a brand and June 11th. So why is this news? So Firefox and Mozilla become amazing because they are rebranding. All I asked was a snappy browser. All I get is a lousy rebranding. This browser is really not amazing. As much fun or not I have with Rust and Cargo, at least I'm still running it because didn't really felt like compiling Chromium either. Also strange binary only, strange setup, this deployment, Google stuff, whatever. Both not amazing, but yeah, also Firefox not really snappy. But yeah, do they address this? No, they spend time and money on rebranding. In my opinion, the Firefox logo here, one of the better things. And I really wonder, in my 20 years of open source since 1998, how many, before it was Netscape, then it was Mozilla, Netscape, then it was also Phoenix or something, then some database company. I also wonder how well did they research their Phoenix name or whatever that was, that they didn't realize some database software stuff also existed. And yeah, then it became maybe Firefox, maybe I forgot some steps in between. And now they need, again, this logo, plenty fine, nothing to, one of the best things of Firefox in my opinion, this logo here, not really sure why they need to rebrand this, but this is a new Firefox logo. If you wanted a snappier whatsoever Firefox, then yeah, all you get is a new logo here. Oops, wrong focus. And yeah, design language. Sorry. Also, in my opinion, some of the stuff does not look amazing. This colors look a little bit, yeah. And also some of this stuff looks a little bit toyish in my opinion. So yeah, whatever, seen better things in my opinion. Again, nothing wrong with this logo. Also maybe even this colors, well, they are not too different, but somehow this looks a little bit, yeah, I could draw this in Inkscape in a weekend, but I'm half a designer, so anyway. And yep. Anyway, I really would wish they would address this, and they also do this Pocket and other services. They will now, by the way, did I had this in last week news, or did I forgot this? They've also wanted to go more into premium services, Firefox Premium something. Was it premium or premium services? Yeah, we have not asked for this. We only asked for an amazing browser. Why do you not do this? Why do you tinker with premium services and redesigned icons? That's really not your biggest problem. Can this also load Firefox? Are we even online? 0 frame, so we should be online. Why is it not loading? Wait a second, you click on premium and you get to get new Firefox? What? Amazing premium website. Anyway, I think I read somewhere they want some premium services of whatever. And here's premium version coming this fall. And yeah, all we wanted was an amazing snappy browser. We didn't ask for pockets, for sync, and people don't want this cloud sync with Google. They come to Firefox and then all they get is the same pocket sync bookmark nonsense and a new pretty icon. So what did they say here? So apparently even to the German tech news site T3N said they plan to launch a premium version later this year, will be available. What will it do? Things haven't been ironed out yet. Suggested additional, yeah. So VPN service, again, VPN service soon outlawed by your local government, at least in Russia and USA or something, and apparently Germany too soon or whatever these politicians want. And yeah, if you want a VPN, then I really don't understand, can the companies not do one product really well? Do they need to do VPN just to, well, it's a little bit a problem of open source, but to be honest, I would rather donate there or have some subscription, but only as long as they give me the open source, right? Because I certainly want to compile this myself for T2 and such, and muselibc and such. Don't really want them to build my muselibc stuff or any other stuff I want just out of principle. So it's open source, it should be open source, right? I would rather give the money for the core business than the VPN they run additionally. This is But yeah, you see even super large corporations, or not corporations, but yeah, something non-profits struggle to, well, struggle. I think did they not get quite some money from Google and Yahoo and whatnot for integration of services, search engine and whatnot. So not really sure if money is a problem, but anyway, this is not what I really want from Firefox. Yeah, so this will be monthly subscription. Well, theoretically, I could give them the subscription just to support them, but the problem is, what has Firefox done for me? Like in the last decades, not really much. The browser is not so very most amazing. So yeah, I also wonder, this was the open source, the major open source browser. How could they, do they not have enough of developers and funding for the last decades already that they have a competing fast browser compared to Chrome? Chrome and WebKit, it's, yeah. And the funny thing is, back in the day, I was actually running KDE and Conqueror, and nobody knew Conqueror, and I actually even recommended it for some embedded projects. And there you see how right this choice was. Conqueror, even back in the day, Netscape, Phoenix, Firefox was always a little bit sluggish, especially with this XUL, XML, user interface language stuff and whatnot. And also back in the day, not just in time JavaScript, just interpreted or something. So that is certainly why Apple took KHTML as from Conqueror for a more nice code base to smaller code base. But yeah, now it's Chromium also not that small anymore. Dave says they use VS Code at work, and the first thing in the changelog was the icon design. What do you mean? First thing in the changelog? Did they also change VS Code icon? Or anyway, as usual, just when we are mostly ready, the most visitors, we could actually further discuss here the AMD stuff. That is what my concept here. I think it's better to go faster through the news and maybe then later discuss stuff more in depth. What is the interest? I personally have the biggest interest. As funny as it is, I should be a software guy, but I'm also quite, as you see from all the vintage stuff here, quite hardware guy. And this is also how we grew up. My father was an electrician, so I grew up with a soldering iron, although he always told me I shouldn't do it. But of course I soldered, especially when he was not there. Always the best thing in the workshop, doing some soldering. This is really amazing to grow up with resistors, capacitors and all the stuff. And I survived. I did not electrocute me. Probably the first time I soldered. When was probably the first time I soldered around alone? Maybe around 9, 10, something like that. Probably not what my father wants to hear when he watches a video, but at least something, at least unsuccessful one-man Linux distribution. But so actually I grew up with electronics, and then programming. My other best friend actually comes more from the theoretic mathematic background, that we did the tinkering, probably a good match there to teach each other more theory, more electronics. And this is up to the day, of course, even though with all the computer science, still hardware is still fun, and really hope this month we will most likely do also some FPGA stuff, not to mention our amazing 5 soldering point joint keyboard converter stuff, not only for Apple ADB but also Sun Serial. And yeah, so this is hardware, always interesting to see here all the diagrams, and yeah, of course, super complex if you compare this even to open source RISC-V. Certainly open source RISC-V, way more compact. I also wonder, the RISC-V instructions architecture not as simple as MIPS. We went through this. If you are interested, we had the RISC-V instructions architecture and also more MIPS like disassembler, writing in one afternoon stuff. I have not yet written the disassembler. I probably should eventually soon write a disassembler for RISC-V just for the educational fun, and then other stuff, because we will most likely, if everything goes well and by plan, do some RISC-V FPGA stuff with Clifford's and Aston. Clifford Web, of course, not only Rock Linux founder, also reverse engineering of all the FPGA bitstream, and Aston, not also only from previous Rock Linux, but doing a lot of 1-bit squared hardware stuff. And they have an Icebreaker FPGA board there, affordable crowdfunding stuff. And we will most likely What Clifford Wolf is also doing among all the FPGA toolchain, bitstream, reverse engineering, and all the USYS synthesis stuff, he also has written a RISC-V Pico core, so Pico RISC-V, very small core that, of course, without memory management unit, not desktop, not server, of course, hardcore embedded like this 8-bit AVR for this kind of tinkering here. So we will most likely show this on YouTube here. Eston's Icebreaker or their shared project Icebreaker, FPGA, Pico, RISC-V and stuff when this stuff gets more, it's starting to ship, so maybe soon, later, sometime depending on their shipping schedule and stuff, how all their busy project and everything fits together. That would be really amazing stuff. And then you see, I wonder if you wanted today want to do a high performance RISC-V core. Imagine you want to do hardware, you are a hardware guy, you're interested in IT, you want to sell processors because you see Intel, AMD, Nvidia and ARM, they do so much big money, you want to replicate the same, you want to bring an open source high performance RISC-V core to the market. I really wonder how your setup would make the most high performance sense to have a similar setup here, basically a similar complexity in terms of branch predictor and also working on not natively on RISC-V opcodes, but internally on a similar microcode setup here, because they, not only Intel but also AMD, of course, they translate the x86 and not very energy efficient, but not very nice to work with and not efficient to parallelize, especially with a few registers and everything, complexity instructions. To do something similar to RISC, or like translating here in the decoder instead of x86 RISC-V to that internal micro-op format, or could you get a similar high performance setup with actually using RISC-V instructions natively? I really wonder. Of course, nowadays RISC-V does not yet have a finalized single instruction multiple data, so for real multimedia 3D video encoding audio stuff, where you would usually use all the previous MMX, then SSE, and then later AVX stuff for all the 3D stuff and whatnot, or a neural network and stuff. Of course, you would still need to have such an extension in RISC-V. The people are working on this. I've shown this in this other live stream, extensions for single instruction or vector stuff. But yeah, so also here improved write combining, buffer performance. Write combining, of course, similar to what we've seen in the security vulnerabilities that we also made a live stream about on the Intel side, with this, was it line buffer or what that buffer was called, in writing that from the cache to the memory or something like that. That magically get PCIe 4. For that you need a new logic board with a new chipset, of course. Well, of course and of course, but yeah, of course. And yeah, fastest PCIe. Why would you need this? I said this already in the previous live stream, not only for GPUs, but also I/O for all the NVMe. All the storage nowadays already outperforms there the PCIe. The PCIe 3 already becomes a bottleneck. And yeah, also increased. Where do you see this millions of or billions of logic gates for just this 14% improved performance, right? Increase the caches were already huge. The caches, of course, for those who never heard about this, they are very fast because memory is super slow. Multiple layers of cache. Cache is simply memory, just super fast memory, just not dynamic like static memory without refresh. Super high performance, low latency to cache all your, buffer all your data to the memory. For improved performance, and not only the new systems, even up to level 3 cache, and the sizes were already huge, right? The sizes of the cache in modern CPUs are already vastly larger than what we previously had in system memory on a whole system. And yeah, although they increased the size, but slightly increased latency, and latency has increased slightly, 4 cycle latency. L2 is 12 cycle latency, but L3 has increased from 35 cycles to 40 cycles. So that means even there you see how much slower this is. accessing accessing the memory takes nanoseconds, and then on the L4 cache, the very first level fastest cache, 4 cycles, clock cycles, where you could already execute multiple CPUs, right? Superscalar. This is already usually more than 4 instructions that go by until you access the data in your L1 cache. And then second level cache, 12 cycles, it's already 12 multiplied by how many superscalar instructions you could execute. So yeah, that is what you need that for in an Infinity Fabric. So I think, as far as I remember from the overview, previously you had this Infinity Fabric only for probably maybe only for EPYC, right? And even on the consumer side, you have now the chiplets where you have, or AMD now has the cores. So I guess you have like two fabrics, I guess, for the core fabrics, or what they call them, core chiplets or whatever. And then you have 2 of those. Why do they do this? Intel has huge problems getting their, what do they advertise? Also 7 nanometer, whatever the latest next process node is. They have challenges for years getting this the yield high enough to actually sell chips. And to optimize this, because the more billion of logic gates you have there, just one spot of dust, just one whatever impurity on your silicon wafer, the whole CPU is already for the trash can, like a Macintosh. And this is why it makes sense to split this up. Also for I/O stability, you might need higher currents to drive I/O. This is why I think I read here the I/O core. So you have like 3, probably there was a photo here somewhere. And the I/O chiplet, or what, let's look this up here, what exactly they call this. And as I said in the beginning of the live stream, so the I/O part is still in, what was it, 14 nanometer or whatever, or yeah, 14 or 12, I think. And this is also for the I/O lines, right? To drive PCIe, to drive memory, you might need higher currents that simply are too high for. By the way, I'm speculating, right? I didn't work there. It's just some general information. Also, in case of some external power fluctuations, also the larger the structure is, the harder it is also to kill those lines. Otherwise, you just some static discharge, you plug in some, the thinner, the smaller something is, easier it breaks. Also, not now. Wait a second, did I not? This was copy and pasting the wrong URL, only on live on YouTube. Let's see here on, yeah, here the size packaging. So I hope they have here a nice picture somewhere. By the way, this is layout and routing. This is also, yeah, so you see here in this picture, you see this is a routing on this chiplets and whatever this interposer kind of material here is, and whatever they call it. So you have here probably, I guess, if I see this correctly here, those 2 core chiplets, and then here I guess I/O chiplets. So yeah, here you have this, by the way, and let's see, is it here? Not really what I was looking for, and yeah, but you get the idea. Really funny stuff. And there you see how can they even make a 64 thread part, yeah, with 2 chiplets. Certainly really fun stuff. And yeah, we certainly, as our GCC we made videos, compiling Firefox takes longer, GCC gets slower, it optimizes more, but it gets slower, especially for us open source people compiling everything. So yeah, we need more performance. And yeah, 14% or something they say IPC, and otherwise everything larger. Caches, actually here they write 15, was it not 14 earlier? Anyway, what is here? All in one, on paper, 15% IPC seems like very reasonable number to promote. And yeah, so much, there's Intel's performance lead in IPC going certainly towards nil, which is very good performance-wise. And again, of course, I do not want to see Intel there, right? But Intel has for the last decades not done a very consumer and developer friendly stuff. They're even consumer friendly prices and platform sockets. Even with AMD, you usually had at least 2 generations of stuff, also not on the Intel side. And prices, of course, double the prices of what was before they were, when AMD 64 was new with Opterons and Athlon and such, when they were still more competitive. Since then, prices exploded. So, and of course, I don't want to see a monopoly of AMD, but we just need really good major players, just like back in the day when there was still SGI MIPS and whatnot. But now that is, of course, not performance anymore. And then, of course, RISC-V would be really interesting to see. Of course, it still probably takes a decade until we have desktop class, workstation class, server class RISC-V performance. But yeah, I also guess AVX2 performance maybe doubles, I guess, with a new addition of the wider floating point unit. So yeah, welcome everyone. Any more questions? Probably 1 hour, well enough. I hope I went here through fast enough. Probably most things are set. Are we done? Conclusion? Are we here? Probably we have reached the conclusion here of, that was already the conclusion page, I guess. Yeah, fun stuff ahead, a lot of benchmarking, a lot of, here's a picture, by the way. Here you see the chiplets, so 7 or what that was, nanometer core chip, chiplets, was it chiplets? Is here a footnote? Anyway, and the IO core, and yeah, really fun stuff. Also really, if you think about how to manufacture this, by the way, fun fact, in previous times they were diffused in Germany. Other way around, made in Germany, the Phenom or whatnot in the other infrastructure nodes here. Not really sure. So now they moved this to TMSC in Taiwan. Unfortunately, was really nice to see, as all the people also in upstate New York and wherever, if you have your local fab, then it's of course always nice to see that local made products. Also support your local stores, right? Don't order everything online. But it is of course crazy that I found it really crazy, the previous generation Phenoms there and Athlons and whatnot, when they had here in Dresden in Germany the fabs, and they still have them, I guess, but just that now Global Foundries is probably manufacturing there, whatever, maybe for Bosch, for Dieselgate, whatever they manufacture there, I have no idea. But I find it really crazy that back in the day, the dies were made in Germany and then they were shipped to Malaysia or whatever for diffusing them here on this carrier. I really find this crazy that it is financially viable to manufacture the die in one place and then fly, ship, whatever, them around the world to a totally different fab there to another place just for the diffusion there on soldering, manufacturing, laminating, whatever on the carrier material there. Really strange that this is financially viable. More comments in the audience. The thing, we need those massively fast processors. So the question is, do we need this massively fast processors? Most of the dev at home done old Q6000 something, just using, and Dave is just not using a massive IDE. Yeah, so I agree somewhat, and for the most part, I'm actually doing huge office stuff is left and right. Microphone cable is not the most longest. Actually, I could hold a Microsoft Surface. This is a camera. So actually, I'm actually most productive. That is also why do I review stuff here. I'm not the most thrilled of the Surface here. Not only touch disease, right? Made already a couple of videos. So that touchscreen here is mostly dead. I really hate this. Also totally kills the resale value. How should you resell a bloody Surface with a mostly dead touchscreen? Also the Alcantara here, not even really used. Also in cars, do not get this Alcantara bullshit in cars. It's the worst material ever. I have totally agree here with Nick Murray there from his Porsche and whatnot channel. I don't have Alcantara in my car. I have a cheapskate car, but this is the only Alcantara I own. But Nick Murray always says Alcantara is varying really not good. And I thought here on this Surface keyboard it's a good material, but no, I've barely used it and it already doesn't look nice. it starts well. It starts anyway, like on Nick Murray's Porsche. But anyway, why do I say this? So most productive, I need a larger display. So the Surface for me was mostly not a good investment beside touch disease and such. But otherwise, I sit here too cramped here. If I have this on the desk here, somehow I sit here like a monkey on a stone or whatever here. Actually, it's not really that much. I don't want to show so much. Anyway, if you have this on the desk here, in my opinion, you always sit here a little bit. Yeah, whatever. Actually, we have this amazing scene. Why don't I use them? So, yeah, my opinion, you sit here a little bit like the Peanuts series there on a small piano. I would not recommend this again for anything. For me personally, I need just a little bit larger display and certainly good keyboard. And this is why I can't buy the new Macs anymore. So do I need the fastest CPUs to program? No. I could probably even program on a 300 MHz SG Octane if it would not be for the power efficiency, electricity consumption and noise level. But when you run something larger locally, it's of course a question, do you run something locally or do you run everything in the cloud? If you run all your web deployment, testing, test suite and artificial intelligence stuff in your cloud and data center, then of course you only need a terminal. Basically you're right in that sense. We are going back to dumb terminals like X-windowing, DEC terminals from back in the day. Probably the cycle what we had before, mainframes, then personal computers and now cloud again. Not really sure if that is the best development, but yeah, for the AMD side, it's certainly amazing to see this performance development because, of course, they were lagging a little bit from that point of view. All more amazing performance is nice to have. And as I said on the X1 Carbon, really amazing machine. You can watch this video, mostly satisfied, but just a little bit, the Core i9, I think it was, could just be a little bit faster for stuff like YouTube live streaming. Not that too many do this, but we do this now sometimes. Also Linux kernel compilation, if you, like myself, compile Linux kernel. Sometimes, all the security updates. By the way, a fun fact, just now that I remember, and we have 15 people in the audience, maybe worth another shout out here. Someone was already joking some time ago, our daily Linux security update. Yes, we are nearly on this level. And also with programming, like although this keyboard is not the most amazing, also scene selection, right? I'm more productive with a good keyboard, not this broken Apple stuff. And in my opinion, maybe get nice vintage stuff that you don't even need to spend so much money in, because sometimes this vintage stuff is so much nicer to work with, more satisfying, more, copy paste keys if you are into this that I use now for YouTube scenes, because why not? And this kind of stuff. And yeah, maybe you don't need this performance and use a nice vintage machine and just do the other stuff in the cloud and such. What I wanted to point out, I said this already in another video. This is a little bit in the everything sucks, from memory bugs to RAM bleed to Intel management engine to all the other processor vulnerabilities, software, Windows, Linux, macOS, peak bugs. And even on Linux, some things are really crazy. I said this already I need to research this. I read that the Linux developers even deploy artificial intelligence kind of machine learning for classifying what kind of commits to pull into the stable branch. I'm not sure if that is true. I heard this once. I need to fact check this. Could be fake news, could be not. But it could be true, because there are just so many hundreds, thousands of commits in the Linux kernel that, yeah, who wants to review this manually? Certainly not so many. And when you look at this is also my criticism, because I have also some failing LVM2 volume here this week. Really pisses me really off, because I still have not recovered. I know with all the random LVM2 commands I destroyed before, I could still assemble it, degenerate it, but now it's ridiculous. It's said I need to write my microkernel. But when you see take a look on this bugs here, here's one thing. So some of the things, I said this already multiple times, some of those commits do not even look like they should be in the stable Linux kernel, and there it looks really like they could really use machine learning here to filter this from the grand scheme of 100,000 commits here. Then you see here revert. add config option to turn off legacy contexts. So yeah, commit blah blah blah, kernel error. So yeah, and then this here is revert Bluetooth, and I think this Bluetooth, I'm not making this shit up. I think I called out this. If you want to fact check this, be my guest. You're welcome. Watch all my previous videos. Again, I checked the comments a second ago, in a minute. So you can rewatch, fact check all my previous videos. I think in one of those videos, which are of course in the meantime getting many, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this commit, if I'm not hallucinating and not getting mentally unfit like some presidents. And because this, I read this, Bluetooth align minimum encryption key size for LE low energy or something, and BR EDR connections. This reverts commit yada yada yada, which is commit yada 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 in upstream. Yeah, amazing git commit numbers here. Yeah, lots of people. So I made fun out of this commit on another live stream some weeks ago, and now we are here 2.5.10 revert. Lots of people have reported issues with this patch, and there does not seem to be a fix going into Linus kernel tree anytime soon. Revert the commit in the stable tree so as the people machines work properly again. Yeah, amazing testing, right? Into machine learning, maybe allegedly, I need to fact check that. Pulling in here random stuff that sounds good or something has so much amazing testing that after this, lots of people report issues with this patch. And yeah, monolithic kernel, ever changing, change this, here's something, there's something, this breaks, that breaks, LVM2 breaks. Yeah, software write, rewritten again, and then use LVM2 software write, because LVM2 software write is so much more amazing here, then can't even easily recover. Well, after it failed itself, right? Not even destroyed this, not even the disk failed. This stuff, logic error, metadata corrupted, there's some bullshit. It doesn't even boot. I made a video, you can watch this, and then you can't even easily recover this. So yeah, it's time for a microkernel. Can't even, but how many reverts do we have here even? Reverting DRM, yeah, revert allow render capable master with DRM auth IOCTLs, and that we read already. Here's that, so 4 reverts just in this kernel, but I'm pretty sure if I just scroll over this, I find a couple of more stuff. I also wonder, should they not maybe focus on just the most vital, like security vulnerabilities, not test a Bluetooth alignment that might have some effect for so low energy something, but is not like security relevant. In my opinion, first of all, I'm not a fan of monolithic kernels anymore, and second of all, if you have a monolithic kernel like this, don't put each untested, not security related, like nice to have but not tested stuff in there. Maybe the stable series should only be about really crashing security related stuff and not like change some alignment in case it might help someone. Yeah, that went well as usual. Comments in the audience. I typed too fast, should I? Okay, but then this live stream is already too long. It's probably good to call it a day. The beginning of the live stream probably was faster, but then are people not usually preferring faster talked Hollywood movies anyway? But anyway, could also be seen the fast talking Linux guy here. I can try to talk slower, but I think in the beginning of the news stuff, maybe you want to rewind to the beginning and watch the news and not the security discussion here. I think the beginning was probably slower. Comments in the audience from Dave, Linus. Scruffed BSD guys can call them masturbating monkeys, but they have been proved him right over the last few years. What kind of but they have been proven to be mostly right over, do you mean OpenBSD, do you mean Tehran? So anyway, BSD also monolithic kernel, I'm not really a fan of this anymore. For example, so many examples. And again, with this LVM2, I also called out, if you are interested in my microkernel ideas, that yes, right now it's vaporware. There are microkernels, QNX, Minix, L4, Mach, Herd, although yeah, not amazing, but whatever. And Yes, this is what we also are here for, to build an audience, to maybe do more work on this, do more theoretically planning. Also, if you want to go for this, steal my idea, I don't care, I have already too much to do anyway. But I set this, I called this out already, code duplication in terms of IDE drivers, of file system drivers. All the code for partition, yes, this code is small, just some partition tables. This is of course peanuts, you can probably write in an afternoon, DOS partition or MBR partition. But then file system, on top of the file system. And all the file system code is duplicated in your bootloader. And then additionally, and of course usually duplicated, often they even copy and paste like the Linux code in grub or something. And then the code is usually slimmed down, sometimes at least, that you don't have such a huge code base in your bootloader. But again, you have it in there and you implement a new feature like compression in BetterFS, and you need to add the same feature to your bootloader, to grub2, for example, to still be able to boot with a compressed root file system. And the same with LVM2 that failed here on me, right? You have the same, although simple without management, just reading simple code in grub2 or everywhere else, maybe Lilo or whatever. And in the bootloader, in the kernel, of course, in the kernel, usually the most sophisticated high performance code. And then you have the same code again in the user space for the management stuff. So this is code duplication times 3. And you have this everywhere. You have basic graphic code in the bootloader, then of course differently sophisticated in the Linux kernel. But even in the Linux kernel, for example, Bear, for those people like myself who sometimes work on a pure text virtual console on Linux, just for the fun, or on vintage machines like the SGI, like the Spark, like a Sony Vario P, that even that code is not very high performance. Often the frame buffer performance is really abysmal low and scrolling like, not like butter, scrolling like, yeah, from, I don't know, what is it, like a snail there. And then more graphic code in Mesa and Xorg and stuff. And such kind of what I outlined in my microkernel, crazy microkernel ideas, have their one kind of library module stuff that, again, this runs as a user process, right? Then you could have one set of LVM2. And I said already, you could use, if you do this clever code reuse wise, you could use the same code for booting, because you don't need all your modules for booting. You could have, I think even QNX has this concept of preloaded modules, similar, not too unlikely like in Linux initRD. And my vision would then be to have the bootloader, of course, not reuse grub2, because grub2 is also already 50 megabyte of something with all the code duplication and stuff. And then my vision would be to use the same code for the bootloader, because again, bootloader needs to use file systems, block IO and stuff, and then just have the kernel directly loadable, like grub2. Grub2 also needs to be loaded, for example, EPYC. And you can do the same with Linux. You can compile Linux so that you have an EPYC stub and load directly the Linux kernel directly from your EPYC BIOS. And for such modern setups, you could boot your kernel and you could generate it like QNX with preloaded modules, and just similar to an initRD, that you have the kernel which is doing all the microkernel, which is doing all the interrupt stuff and memory management and stuff, just the pure basic stuff, and then your modules for file systems, partitions file systems, maybe one module, maybe multiple, doesn't matter for that. And then also LVM, and then you would not have this code duplication. You would pre-link this like an initRD, so the microkernel with its preloaded processes, and then maybe even with an initRD like user space setup stuff. And in my opinion, this would be so much more amazing. I really wish I would have infinite time. I could just sit and write this. Not yet there with YouTube subscribers and Patreon. Yeah, also could support us on Patreon, because of course this channel is more than this news show. This is just some public service. In general, we would want to do more amazing stuff, writing low-level stuff, microcontrollers, drivers, show you how stuff work, graphic cards and stuff. I really would love, and there we had this discussion about basic income, but this stream is already long enough that we save for another stream. We really end in a minute with basic income and such. I really would love just to be able to sit here and innovate the world, but the problem is, who should I sell a microkernel to? Yes, I could try to reach out to the German government to say, hey, I write you super secure kernels that the Russians and American friends are not hacking you, but not really sure if that will be the most successful. I could try to sell it, but of course, realistically, nobody will buy a not as colorful operating system in the next couple of 5 years or something that is not as colorful and office feature rich like macOS and Windows. No illusion there, but it would be fun, it would be amazing. Some of this stuff exists a little bit with L4 in the L4 space, and yeah, ever changing, never being finished herd stuff. But yeah, stuff really would like to do here just for the educational and innovative fun. And maybe I even start because the data on this failing LVM2 that I now mangled myself more with really complicated commands that all didn't do what I wanted it to do. Maybe I write some low-level stuff here for the user space to just dump here this not assembled RAID 5 array with just the LVM2 stuff. It's not too important data, it's just my YouTube videos, the raw video that in the meantime are a couple of terabytes from the 400 YouTube videos that we've done so far, not of all of them, only the last year or something. So it would not be too sad if this data is gone, but I think it's still, well, it assembled before I try to more LVM2 commands to try to repair. And it's of course crazy that after 20 years of Linux experience, you can't just repair this LVM2 array. What is the problem? Most of the problems, by the way, and this will then be really the final word here, is LVM2 RAID 5 recover or new drive. The problem is there is some easy sounding stuff, but all of the stuff, for some strange reason, usually talks about migrating this. So often this is by the way, MDM, this is exactly what I did not use. I didn't use the old-fashioned software ADM stuff. I used native LVM2 here because people told me that is the future and amazing. So there are commands, and the commands are LV convert, change, maybe convert, repair, and there's also like migrate or whatever, but that needs the old drive. And the old drive is right now, there is some metadata conflict, and somehow the commands are meant if your array still works and you migrate one drive on your RAID 5 array to another, which is of course also silly because often you would do this if your drive failed. I really wonder what are those people thinking when this drive would have been gone up in smoke. I would not have this drive anyway, so I also wouldn't have LV convert, LV convert merge move, or what was it, move, or maybe it was actually move migrating. Yeah, maybe this here, but yeah, you Google around, you find plenty of stuff, and yeah, you come on to the point here anyway. So you can believe me when I tell you nothing what I found matched here this use case. Also, this is silly if you have a fully populated array similar to mine here. Even if you have 20 disks and your whole disk array is full, even then you cannot just plug in another drive to migrate your file to the new one. I really don't understand what they are thinking, and I really don't understand, maybe most people professionally don't either run it or you run it with some distributed file system like GlusterFS, or the other one was what was it? Plus distributed OS was FS is was it E something? What was it? Clustered file systems. Come on, what is one popular Linux one? Should be here somewhere, right? Maybe leave me in the comments below what are your recommendations. Do you find LVM2 amazing? Do you run something else? What the heck was a cluster FS here? Industrial. Come on. Maybe I find it faster in the cluster FS. Oh no, let's see something. Yeah, Ceph. How could I forget the Ceph? Not really tried this for bigger stuff. Do you use any of those? But yeah, do you need already run distributed operating system, file system here, Ceph or something, just because your LVM2 sucks? Well, of course with distribution, if I would have multiple co-locations, but yeah, for my YouTube videos. But, anyway, hope you learned something, hope you enjoyed this. Leave me in the comments below what you think to the topics, and also distributed file systems or LVM, and also AMD, Intel, certainly. Do you need more performance? Are you looking forward to those? And otherwise, hope to see you soon, hope you learned something, and don't forget to share, like and subscribe for all the next videos to come. Oh, a couple of drop frames just now, but zero burnt. 360 drop frames, not too many today.